Who are all these fucking people? Wait. Oh, I can't admit that. Yeah, I will admit. Hey, Troy, how are ya?
Not bad. Yourself?
Doing well. Doing well. Thanks for.
Glad to hear. Of course. Wish I had my our computer. I could do these cool virtual backgrounds, but it's got my
Yeah, I
wall.
want to see. How do we do that? I haven't done it yet.
So if you hit next to Zoom video, the little up arrow, hit choose virtual backgrounds. I'll show you mine. Just like this happens. So I have my.
Oh, okay. It covers you up.
Yeah, if you have a MacBook Pro, my MacBook Pro I left at home. So my Air can't handle that.
It doesn't look like. Let's see. Okay, everybody. Thank you for waiting. As you know, with technology, things sometimes don't always go as planned. So I know I've just admitted everybody in the room. If you could, while the panel is going, if you are not on the panel, please mute your mics and turn your video off. It'll allow for more screen time, but you'll still be able to participate. You can do that right now. That would be a huge help. So thank you very, very much. I know we got a few more that we need to have muted. Aaron, if you have your video up, if you can turn off, please, as well.
This is Frank, actually.
Oh, Frank. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Yeah, I'm not actually Aaron Cohn. I'm not a Jewish biker.
That's okay. I am
Sounds
so
like
sorry. Frank, Andrew Rosser with Grit Daily. I apologize.
What's up, man? No worries.
All right, everybody. Well, let's go ahead and get started. As I said, my name is Andrew with Grit Daily. I am the managing editor here, and thank you to Microsoft Reactor for Startups for allowing us to continue, even during COVID, to bring you and the world content. And I know, Frank, you wanted to start off a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to say welcome to everybody. Obviously, we would normally be doing this from our reactor space in Times Square, but unfortunately, we have to live in this new time and kind of new scenario. But
Hold on, I gotta record this.
Microsoft still wants to support startups and support everything you all are working on. So happy to jump in here, and if there's any needs with Microsoft that we can help with, let us know. We obviously have a startup program that we're still admitting people into that has resources like sales resources and technology and all that stuff. And then in general, if you have events and things coming up, we're doing a lot of virtual engagements. So if there's any way we can amplify what you're doing or share what you're doing with our community, we have a pretty large set of companies that have been through our program. We're happy to help with that also. So you can just email me. I'll leave my email in the chat. It's just frank.denbo@microsoft.com. And yeah, have a good time.
Great. Thank you, Frank. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we have a great discussion planned for you. We are going to be talking about content and digital marketing. And I think right now, with what we are all experiencing together, regardless of the industry that we're in, I think it's an exciting time in terms of technology and the different ways innovation is coming in through the use of social media, through the use of platforms. And we have a wonderful roundup of guests today. Troy Osinoff, Chad Britton, Mindy Kaplan, John Hall, and welcome to each of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
All right. So I want to start off with you, Troy. Tell us a little bit about yourself, quick bio. Tell us a little bit about Juice, and then we'll move down the line and get everybody introduced.
Sure. So I have a really random background in marketing and digital in general. When I was 19, I dropped out of college and made a site called makeagift.com. It was one of the first sites to combine multiple images into a GIF. I grew that out and got acquired, and I used the funds from that to invest in a recording studio in the city and help take a shoe factory in Midtown out of bankruptcy. They overextended themselves into wholesale, and I invested in them and pulled them out of bankruptcy and only went direct to consumer and helped make them profitable. And it's still the only shoe factory in New York City today. It's called Modern Vice. Had a lot of random products along the way from there. I had a Tumblr that went viral that I published a book with Penguin on called My Bad Parent, just a really random Tumblr that came together. And I actually sold the rights of that to John Krasinski about 4 years ago. From there, I was head of digital marketing for the world's largest HVAC distributor, doing about $5 billion a year in annual sales, called Watsco, and made a lot of e-com projects while I was down there because, as you can imagine, HVAC is the most exciting thing. So I needed some things to keep me occupied on the side. So I started building e-com stores. And when I started doing that, I made the first iPhone 7 case that had a headphone jack built back in. As you know, like the iPhone 7 removed the headphone jack. Did a Kickstarter for that, got the attention of BuzzFeed. And BuzzFeed reached out to me to be head of acquisition for all their e-commerce brands that they were launching. So I did all their go-to-market strategies, ad partnerships, and oversaw all the advertising for e-com for BuzzFeed. Did that for about a year before I met my new co-founder, Michael Lusovetsky. We made a company called Juice, which is an acquisition agency here in New York. Well, not here, I'm in Connecticut now, but in New York City. And we work with brands ranging from HIPAA-compliant texting app for doctors, blockchain conferences, Kenneth Cole, Paris Hilton, all in the acquisition space. With paid acquisition, organic, influencers, and SEO.
Well, great background, and we're glad to have you here with us, Troy. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
All right, Mindy, you're up.
All right. So let's see. I started off with a very corporate background. So I worked for Ford and Nissan in automotive for a while. Then at Microsoft, not with Frank, unfortunately, so different times, but I was on the ad sales side. And then always wanted to go out on my own and decided to jump into VR and AR about 3 years ago, but had never created a piece of content. So I thought, well, what can I do to understand the landscape, understand how the content's created, how it's measured, how to sell it to brands. And so ended up jumping in a hot air balloon with a fat Jew once we could convince him to do that with us. And we partnered with entrepreneur.com at the time, and we launched the company that way and got some really good exposure and understood how the content worked, and did an agency for a little over 2 years. And then we got acquired by a company that does operations work, so building out their AR VR capabilities. And then most recently, super excited, after many years in the making, I am launching a media and content company for women where all the content is by men, and it's called Mailroom, M-A-L-E. So it is, it's in partnership with a few different publishers. So it's where we take 3 very different types of guys and we put them in the hot seat. And it's going to be live streaming on Twitch starting Friday. So that's a pivot I think we can definitely talk about. But so it's a Twitch show, it's on YouTube, it's a podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And we're also doing weekly events that we're turning into fundraisers to connect single people. So again, it's called Mailroom.
Very cool. And I know that'll be some fun. There'll be some fun discussion points with Twitch and what you're doing as well. And thank you. We're happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
All right, John, Mr. Dunder Mifflin, you are up.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is John Hall. My background, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I read a bunch of Nicholas Sparks books when I was 17, ended up going to Mizzou because I thought I was in love with the girl, and she ended up not coming here to University of Missouri. So I got depressed because I was alone and was a romantic. So I worked, saved a bunch of money first semester, ended up buying a house, flipping it, buying a couple more. Started a larger student housing company while I was going to school. So that was my first entrepreneurship gig. So thanks, Nicholas, for that one. And then after that, I started a firm called Influence & Co. with Kelsey Meyer. Ended up being acquired. It was a publishing company that was the largest creator distributor of expert media. And so we ended up selling in 2018. Started calendar.com from there. So my passion kind of lies with time management, analytics, and how we're truly thinking about how we spend our time. So we were able to acquire the domain. So it's actually calendar.com spelled right. So we're going to be launching that and making that big in May. And personal, I'm
Like it. Well, congratulations to you on what's coming, and we're very glad to have you here. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. If I end up having to go check on them, I told my wife I was going to watch the kids tonight and got crossed. So just if they want to come in and talk, just they probably will. So I just wanted to forewarn you.
That's okay. It helps with the engagement for what we're talking about. So the more engagement, the better. Chad, you are up next. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. So I'm Chad Britton. I'm CEO of NVS Design. We're a full service advertising and marketing agency with three major markets. Started in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're actually celebrating 10 years in business now. We got 2 additional locations in Beverly Hills, California, and Chicago, Illinois. We deal with large clientele, small clientele, pretty much all over the board. We've got some amazing clients that we've been able to build our portfolio up over the last few years, but we definitely specialize on search engine optimization. We actually created a custom CMS dashboard for all of our SEO clients to be able to utilize to track their analytics, in addition to updating real-time information for us to be able to really engage with our clients directly and ensure their success for their SEO strategy campaign. But as I said, we pretty much offer everything across the board. And definitely not, being 10 years in business, this wasn't how we were expecting to celebrate by any means, but definitely trying to stay positive as much as we can, and very thankful for the clients that we've had to get us to this point, and looking forward to the future and how we're going to need to adapt to make sure that our agency has as much success ongoing as possible.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here with us, and let's kick it off. I really just want to get this out there. Life is different right now. We're all living a new norm, regardless of the industry we're in. We're all here in a marketing perspective. What is digital marketing before COVID came into play, before this epidemic? How would each of you really define digital marketing? And Troy, I'd like to start with you, just with your portfolio, and then I'll move to Mindy. But how would you define digital marketing pre-COVID?
It's interesting. We've seen a lot of shifts pre and post, obviously. A lot of our clients, digital marketing was a means to physical. So we have a lot of retail clients. So, it brings awareness to brands. So you actually physically go there. It brought attention to new companies, whereas everything now is more so on the digital side. Marketing for retail locations doesn't really exist anymore. It's definitely obviously digital marketing is all about awareness, and now it has to be awareness in the digital world.
And what makes marketing attractive today in today's digital age, in the 21st century? And Mindy, I'll send that your way, because I think with what you have done and what you've implemented with mailroom and kind of having this reverse type of role, it's fascinating. How would you describe what makes marketing attractive today?
Well, I think it's the age-old give people content wherever they are, right? So I know we'll talk about TikTok. That's one place that certain age groups are. And then even for us now, we launched on Valentine's Day, and I had a specific launch plan of all the places we would be, and I'm changing it in real time. So this Twitch live streaming show happened on Friday of last week. That wasn't even in my plans before. And we started getting some good traction when we could take online to offline. So we had a digital presence, which was great. And then we started doing events around the city, and we were getting a really good response, booking more events. And then all of a sudden when this happened, I just had to move into, okay, so now what can we do virtually? What can these different platforms do? What can they not do? And then how do we design a strategy around that? So I think now more than ever, I think before, obviously, we knew the landscape in a way that everyone was used to, and now I think whoever the fastest movers are will see the most success in whatever places you can talk to your customers. So
Sure.
I think it's like
Yeah,
big picture, zooming out and trying to just be as tactical as possible with what we have to work with.
Well, I think if I can chime in, I think if
Yeah,
you guys
please.
would agree with this too, I think it's forced those that are maybe a little bit more intimidated with technology and online marketing in general to have to be in a space where, in order to succeed and adapt with what's happening, it's kind of forced them into a different position to have to learn a little bit more. And I think that in the long term is going to make our jobs hopefully a little bit easier to open it up to different demographics.
Something that I was gonna chime in, it's like this time to me is one of the most important relationship building times that I'll see in my lifetime, because there's never been so much struggle and vulnerability, and people who, like, right now I'm using this as a time not just to almost to put sales aside for a second and just completely reach out to people in meaningful ways, like asking people, hey, like anything I can do to help, like truly, I don't even care if it's just some person to chat to have a beer on a video, or just looking out for their best interests, helping them survive, giving them SBA advice. Like for me, marketing has changed very, very quickly. And I think that obviously there's typical digital strategies that you should be implementing right now, but I think the extreme rarity right now is to actually give a shit about people during this time more than you ever possibly have. And this is going to set you up in the long term completely, because there's going to be things out of people's control right now. You're going to lose your job. You're going to your businesses who they don't even deserve it. They worked their ass off for years and they're going under now. And so one of the things you can come out of this with is really good, strong relationships that will look out for you. And so I would say during this time, one of the big things is putting some marketing efforts towards strictly relationship building, because some industries aren't even just buying things. So like I'm spending a lot of time advising people to say, go out there and form the long-term connections that you typically would never get somebody on the phone. Because I guarantee you somebody went on the phone or a video chat where they never would have before because they got time.
Yeah, I saw something. Oh, I was just going to add on that. I saw. I ended up connecting with someone who is nearly impossible to get a hold of, and it was just more sharing ideas. And I think coming at it with that angle, without something to sell, to what John was saying, if nothing else, it builds a relationship, and then it's also planting seeds if and when, or hopefully when, we can all escape that. Now, people have thought bigger and there's different ways to potentially collaborate, because it's done in a setting that isn't something that's being pitched. It's just more conversational in the midst of the relationship building.
I mean, it humbles us all, Yeah.
Real quick with time management at work here, John or Chad, is time on our side right now? Or is this a phase that you feel that take advantage of every minute that you have? We don't know how much we're going to have. I mean, what are the pros and cons here on this?
I mean, I think in some respect it is on our side because we're all quarantined and, there's only so much we can do in a day, considering we can't, be out for events and pretty much our lives have come to a screeching halt for the most part. And I think strategizing and making sure that we're doing everything, in our power to make sure our clients have success ongoing, and kind of touching on, what Mindy and John had said, building that relationship now and showing that you actually care, and going through the angst that these businesses are currently suffering, and being human. I mean, we need to get back to being, people that care about each other and love and compassion. And I think this has given us an opportunity to be on a platform that ultimately really allows for us to build that connection, whereas we maybe didn't have that opportunity before.
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity. You can actually own your time for once. Like one of the biggest issues with calendar, like we collect the data that shows that people get their schedule taken from them. So 6 months ago, like somebody else is almost running your schedule. You see all these events show up all the time. I think that I'm looking at this time as being more precious than ever because it's helping me. Like I read the book Essentialism. Now I know Greg is an awesome author and he's a good guy, but I read that book because during this time, like it's a really good time to think of what is essential for you, your business, because you don't have these distractions. And so I think this time right now has been more precious to me than ever. I've also got to spend time with my family a little more. It's recharged me in a way where, yes, it's really sad and taxing for me to see friends struggle this time. And I want to be there for them. I also want to be there for my organization. And because I also understand wartime, because this is an equivalent in business war. It's like some people are struggling and having to do layoffs. Like I've had a friend that laid off 1,000 people last week, and it was sad to see them go through it. So I think that my kind of balance with time is I'm doing everything I can in that kind of wartime to be there for people for work to produce, but there's a diminishing return on that time too, because you're limited on what you can do. So with that additional time, I'm using to, like I read Essentialism, talk about what essential, or thinking about what is essential, not just for me professionally, but what makes me happy. Am I going the right direction that I'm happy with? And so I think that for me, time right now is almost more valuable than it ever has been. And I think people are going to make massive changes in their, or improvements in their positions personally, if they use it correctly.
You know, with all these online video platforms, you know, for example, we're using Zoom right now, you know, coming into the age of social media are really, I guess, opening it even more. You know, we're seeing platforms like TikTok that have been very popular amongst, you know, younger teens, tweens, a lot of the Disney kids and talent are on it. But we're seeing platforms like TikTok, YouTube, House Party start to really dominate this market right now. And I guess my question is what is all of this? Is this just a phase where these platforms are here for us when we need them? Or do you think this is a new sense of infrastructure, digital infrastructure that I think these platforms can maybe continue to build up upon once this pandemic comes to an end?
I don't personally see it ending any, like the usage of these platforms ending. I think there was definitely, it's for a lot of people that aren't used to like Zoom and these platforms, it's definitely a learning curve, but now that they're used to it, they're adapting, and that's become their normal life in their day to day. People see the ease of use of Zoom and all these platforms. Why would they move away from it? I think people are going to become more okay with doing these digital like video conferences rather than in-persons. In-person is always great, but I think as people are getting used to this and accustomed to this new normal, I don't see it going away when people can congregate again. Personally,
well, in some ways, it gives you accessibility to events, and
100%.
you know that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise. So I think from a social media perspective, more than ever, now that we're in these confined spaces and we can't go out to events and do the things that we like to do, that we are relying on that entertainment more and more. Look at the movie studios; everybody's closed down for production. I mean, shows are doing essentially what we're doing. So I think it gives artists and influencers a chance to potentially really showcase what they have to offer on a scale that's comparable to that of production studios. But I do find it interesting, and one thing I wanted to talk about was from an Instagram standpoint, a lot of times with influencers, we look at what makes them special, right? And a lot of times that is being able to attend these amazing events like Coachella and go to these amazing parties that you normally can't get into as an average Joe. And with that being taken away, I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes the overall marketing strategy and overall perception of what an influencer is and what they can accomplish with their brand.
Does this open up the field for competition? Instagram has dominated the market or the industry with respect to video content and going live. But with these platforms like Zoom and House Party really emerging a lot stronger, coming out a lot stronger than they were before, do you foresee this market essentially becoming overrun or flooded by more digital apps and innovations that are designed to accustom these types of needs? I mean, could this be a bad thing?
I mean, to some degree, I absolutely think so. I think you'll have those that were ahead of the curve and they've got the followers that they have for a reason and they can build upon that brand. But it definitely is something that is going to be more saturated. I've seen people, open TikTok accounts, and maybe those that weren't as heavily on Instagram, now they're more so on Instagram because they have a lot more free time on their hands and they're creating content too. So there's always that opportunity to saturate the market. but I think you have to go back to your foundation from a business standpoint, and if being an influencer or in that respect is what you're trying to accomplish from a marketing standpoint, a business standpoint, that you have to really hold true to your values. But it will be interesting to see, and I think time will tell, right? We don't really know how long this is going to last. So I think what could be normal or perceived as normal right now in the next 2 to 4 weeks is going to change. So.
And Mindy, to you, let's talk Twitch, and whether it's Twitch or TikTok. I mean, in your opinion, how are people and users, especially younger users, making so much money, so much profit off these types of platforms? I mean, even with your concept with Mailroom, I mean, you have interactivity, you have engagement, but there's money to be made with these types of platforms.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's taking a step back, and even just as a marketer, no matter what your business is, I think it's really important to understand each one. Like TikTok, obviously, but now, is obviously for a much younger demographic, but now parents are getting on it with their kids. And so it's expanding. And so I think it's good to just join it, understand it. I think to what we were talking about earlier, Zoom versus Instagram, I think they're very different purposes, right? So knowing all of those and then determining how to monetize them based on what your product is. And for mine being content, there's a few things. So Twitch is now getting much more popular for other types of content, and it's kind of it's happening fast, but it's a bit of a slow build. So I think it's a great time to jump in and understand it. Obviously, it launched with just gaming, like the YouTube of gaming. Amazon acquired them for a reason, and so we're testing it out just literally Friday night, so I can report back with some findings. But it's pretty simple to use. Their backend is Skype. So if you are using Skype, typically it's joining a channel or creating your own channel, and then you can monetize it that way. So if you're an expert in anything, or talk about your business and your learnings or your products, and it can evolve over time, but it's a pretty scrappy platform. So it looks basically like this. So there's not a lot of setup. So I would go in, research, and maybe jump in and see if it's for you. But I think there's so much opportunity in content right now, and it's for the taking. So I think it's just testing and learning for now.
I agree with that. It's interesting, like where Twitch originally came from Justin Kahn, like just filming himself at Justin TV, then evolved into this this gaming platform. Now it's going so much further. I mean, like iPhone usage for like Instagram and Facebook is up over 56%, I believe the number is as I looked. So definitely more eyeballs on the platforms. I'm just more curious, like you said, like House Party on this, the more niche apps that are coming out, like House Party's been used for friends to play instead of FaceTime as an alternative. So I don't know if anyone's going to take like specifics from Instagram or TikTok or any of these that are doing well, but going more niche could be the more interesting route that a lot of these new apps can be launching in.
Yeah, something I was going to add. Oh, go ahead, Minnie.
I was just going to share one stat that someone mentioned to me the other day, a publisher, that podcasts are down about 40% right now. And I think that's just something to note because people obviously aren't going on their daily commutes. They want to be more entertained. They're home. So I think it's that, idea of like looking at what your business is and how you're broadcasting and what different options are if some are decreasing while others are increasing.
It's something that I was going to say is that during times like this is when some of the most creativity and cool things happen, as sad as it is. And COVID's a horrible, sad thing. When you look at whether it's an economic downfall or bad years, creative things happen. It's like Mindy, it's like I was intrigued by your mailroom thing. I was like, oh, that's cool. Where did that come up with? So I'd love to learn on that on the side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look into that. But cool things happen during these times. Something I'm kind of concerned if we go in the wrong direction and we're going to turn into Ready Player One. Have you guys seen that movie? Where it's like I'm a little worried. And so I think that with all the cool things that are happening is that I do think that I think that as a marketer, it's important to, even though there's going to be a lot of really cool things happening, I'm excited about a lot of things, but also keep in the back of your mind, what is everybody else not doing? Like, and an example of a marketer, when everybody was going digital at first, there was a smart marketer down in Texas. He's like, man, 99% of my competitors are all digital. I'm going to send print ads to these people. And he was the only person in his industry that sent print ads. And like everybody thought he was nuts, but he had such an effective strategy because he was doing something that everybody else wasn't doing. So although I think that there is amazing digital opportunities right now and the focus should be there, don't take the eye off of, always consider what is everybody else not doing that could reach my audience in an engaging way.
Right, because it's going to be saturated. I mean, where there's an opportunity, obviously there's an opportunity for it to be overly saturated. So I agree with that 100%.
And we've mentioned, or we've, Amazon's come up a couple times in this discussion, and, maybe this isn't even the right question to ask, but how does a small business or even a company that attempts to compete with Amazon still compete today in COVID-19 times? Is that even the right question to ask? Amazon is still doing its business despite cutting down on shipping times and delivery times. Is that the right question to ask?
Go for it.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say, it's very interesting. I mean, I think Amazon obviously is a lot big competition. Always has been a large competitor for all of our clients that have their own e-com stores. But depending on the industry, we're seeing a lot big increases on people wanting to shop directly from our clients, especially in the food and beverage space. We're seeing massive increases of sales, fitness equipment, everything in the home improvement space and self-improvement space. We're seeing a lot of people going direct to their buyers. To your point, Amazon also has massive delays in delivery times. So it gives a great opportunity for our clients that are selling all these food and various other things I mentioned earlier to actually overtake their Amazon sales, which is exciting for them because it's more, Amazon does take a big fee and they can keep their employees employed.
Well, and it gives you the opportunity to support a local business too. And I think right now that's what we really have to focus on. And we should support the small businesses of America because that's what is really the backbone of our economy.
So what should the next incremental hire be for a small business or any type of SME? Where should these companies be looking at? Because, John, to your point on, time is here with us. And Chad, you agreed earlier, time is on our side to an extent. And if we capitalize off that time, we can be preparing on how do we bring some of these people back, especially the ones that we didn't want to let go, had to let go, or had to cut short. Where should we be looking for that next incremental hire?
I mean, I think we have to be cognizant and careful knowing how quickly things have changed because, companies that were far exceeding sales and revenue a month ago have pretty much come to a complete halt when it comes to sales and revenue. So I think in moving forward, we have to be cognizant as business owners and be careful of the direction that we go. But ultimately, no different than with my employees, I was fortunate enough to be able to take care of them at least through April. Hopefully we'll be fine through May. But it's developing that plan. And not everyone had that luxury depending on the industry. So I think we have to be cognizant moving forward that we position ourselves in a place financially that makes sense, but also in a position for those that make our businesses possible.
And moving forward, what type of content can we be expecting in the future? And I know that's a broad question, and I guess I'll add a follow-up to that as well, is there a way to do it wrong? Is there a wrong way to go about this moving forward today, whether we're on Instagram, on Facebook, we have, a business that thrives off Twitch, Mindy, and TikTok, we're seeing a lot of our colleagues take to these platforms. Is there a wrong way to address content moving forward as it stands right now?
I think to me, it's always any type of content is being authentic to your brand, to your company. Like, I think that should be the common thread, no matter what the platform is. And I do think, personally, I'm such an extrovert that it's me and my plant. And so the minute I can go outside, like I'm done with content for a while, I want like human interaction. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. So I'm looking at this time as a window. If you do have a content strategy that you want to amplify, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think it's not doing it haphazardly, but starting with like, what is your messaging? And especially now, like, what is the message you want to go out with? Because for me, you know, mailroom is meant to be funny, and it's about dating and communication, and we do a thing called text translations, and we ask these guys like, what are you thinking, and why? And some days I feel like I don't know that I am or anyone else is feeling this today. Like it has to be at the right time. It has to be done in the right way. So I think as a marketer, as someone, a business owner, I think it's just understanding your content plan for the next even few, and how that fits into the climate, and then look at the different possibilities of platforms that are the right fit and go from there. But I would just keep in the back of your mind that I do think that right now people are ready to watch, and I think when things change, people will want to be out and about, and I don't know that people will be as glued to their content as they are now.
Sure, and I want to go back real quick, Troy, to your previous response. What happens if a business isn't already digital? Because I think from your response, it sounds like, we're assuming that a business is already, for the most part, equipped to handle that type of technology, that type of change. What do you say when a business who has refused to adapt to certain technologies, that now they are being forced, essentially, like many industries, to jump on board in some of these platforms?
It really depends on the type of business. I mean, unfortunately, some businesses, like we work with, like gyms, for example, that they just can't go online, or some are starting to, and doing digital classes is actually great to see. But it really depends on the industry. I mean, definitely, to your point, they're forced to be online now, but I think it also gives them an opportunity to see the greater reach they can have online and actually grow a lot bigger as a business. As a retail location, you're limited to whoever's in the proximity of your business. Whereas online, your limitation is your shipping, or potentially your shipping or your reach, whatever it may be, or the business may be. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for a lot of these companies to actually take the extra push they needed to go online, if they're able to.
Yeah, and at least here with Grit Daily Live, what we really try to do is bring people together, people that may have never used these types of platforms or been in a position to be face to face, even virtually, to talk about the type of content that they do. It's one thing to sit behind a computer or device to curate manufactured content, but it's another thing to actually humanize that content, to actually give life to that content. And I believe from my understanding today, Grit Daily itself eclipsed Cheddar through or via Alexa traffic rankings, and which is awesome. Little self-promotion here. But, thank you. And
that's always okay.
Yeah, we're all in that boat of, I think we're all trying to learn what works, what doesn't. But each of these trends, whether we're focusing on TikTok, whether we're focusing on Twitch or Zoom or Discord, are these secular trends that we can expect to see keep up with the trend. I guess my question is what happens if these companies can't keep up with the pace that is being set right now? In my opinion, I think it's a very quick pace that's happening right now. John, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but in terms of keeping up with the Steins, so to speak, in cyberspace.
I was actually just giving you guys props to a friend like 2 hours ago about that. One, just because it's like, it's been cool to see you guys hustle. Like, there's so many media properties that come up all the time, to be honest with you, and I say it's going to fail. And this is something where I'm actually a fan of Cheddar. I like what they've done over there too, but like seeing that, I was pretty proud of you guys. So I do want to give you guys a shout out for that since you deserve it. But I mean, I think that right now, I think that like even what you guys are doing here, like I've seen a lot of companies like Microsoft, I know they're sponsoring this or whatever. It's like, I've seen a lot of the Microsoft types stop what they're doing in different ways And like, I'm seeing the winners come, and they actually like really kind of keep doing this, and even look at it as like, hey, we're going to continuously to do unique things. Mindy touched about authenticity. It's like, just because there's this crazy, horrible thing happening around us doesn't mean we stray from what we know and our vision. And that's what makes great companies. It's what makes great leaders too. And I read an article from Bob Glazer the other day that was about leadership, and I applied it to almost companies and even media properties. And there's going to be the people that panic and make decisions. And I had a media company and actually like fire and immediately lay off their employees, which I was like, you don't even know what's happening, and you're freaking out, and you're killing your, like, so many people are going to look down on you because of this, and you're going to lose respect. And the smart people, what in Bob's article talked about being more of a strategic leader, take a step back and they look at and they say, okay, what are the things that we can be doing to continue this support? Because like I said, Microsoft, like, I took Frank's message down and I was like, I'm going to connect with this guy afterwards, because I think it's cool that even though this crap's happening, he's still sponsoring startup stuff. Now, Microsoft's doing better than most companies, but at the same time is that I still think that even my friends, like I was talking to a guy the other day, his revenue went down to 0, but like seeing his drive and saying like, hey, like, I'm going to, he actually, it was a gym, and he said, I'm not going to just stop what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and hedge against this happening. And he created a digital line that like actually went with his gym. And he's actually making a decent amount of money off that now. And when his gym gets put back online, now he has 2 businesses. And so I think that looking at different sources and marketing and changing things in a way where you're hedging against this, because I think this could last a really long time. I hope it's not. But in reality is that I think that a smart marketer and business owner or business leader is going to hedge against it. And they're going to align that with something that can last after the fact, so that if things do go well, then you're running faster.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Daily is hiring, John. So that's good to know. It's all about the opportunities. But, I think as it starts to come to a close, I do agree. And again, a thank you to Microsoft. What they are doing is next level. And it's wonderful, because during this time, this is the time for small businesses to rise, to step up, to overcome a lot of these odds. And having a company like Microsoft, like a lot of, the media companies, with what, we're trying to do here at Grit Daily Live, is give everybody a voice, to give content life. And whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok or Twitter, if you can't formulate that connection behind that account, behind those words, I don't think there's value behind it. And I think we can all agree to that. And Mindy, to what you've been doing with the company, Chad, with what you're doing, the aesthetics, the design, what each of you here are able to do within each of your businesses, you give life to that content. And with that, I'll leave it with this question is, what do each of you, and I'm curious on each of your responses, what is one thing that each of us in an industry may regret not doing during this time, looking back next year? Did I stump everybody? So I guess looking if moving forward into 2021, as we look back on what has happened in 2020, as we're sitting here today, what do you think is one thing that is going to be in the media on different panel discussions of, what, this business or this industry should have focused a little bit more on this, or maybe taken this a little bit more seriously? Is there something that comes to mind that you feel maybe people aren't doing well enough as of right now that you think could be a problem in the future?
I mean, I think one thing, or at least what I'm learning from this is if I go back to the same patterns, we've been in business for 10 years, and this is a touch point that I had spoken to in a recent article that I had done with you guys. And I think a lot of times when we've been in business for as long as we have, and obviously with technology, things are changing constantly, and every day is different. I think a lot of times, at least in my case, sometimes it gets a little monotonous, and I lose sight of why I started our agency in the first place and what drives me and things that make me passionate. So this has given me a time to reassess those things and look at opportunity where there is a lot of, things we don't know, and there is a lot of uncertainty right now. But I think this has given me the time to really reassess things and focus on the things that I can do to not only increase the visibility of the agency, but really be there for our clients. And that's one thing we really push as an agency, is that we don't want our clients to view us as someone that they've hired, but more as an actual partner. We care about our clients and we want to see them succeed. So I definitely want to take this time to reevaluate our strategies and make sure that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that our clients are as successful as possible ongoing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And John, please, some advice. One piece of advice to leave with viewers and those who join us later for the replay. What's some advice as we're coming out of this in terms of curating, in terms of time management? Go.
So Chad, I think you covered well on the professional side of things, adding value and really thinking about the value add clients, because ultimately if you add value for people, they don't get rid of you even in tough times. Like, are the clients that stick with us right now are ones that the value is truly there and it wasn't just sold to or marketed to. The personal side is something that I wish would happen, but I don't think is going to happen. But I think that this is a chance for us to actually, like, I think there were so many trust barriers that were coming into this, where you could say it was because of politics, media, generational differences. This is a time where we actually have a shot to come together. Like, I'm reflecting on who's done me wrong in the last 5 years that I need to go back to and actually be grateful to them in ways where it's like, hey, like, even though we had something bad happen or whatever, I want to wipe the slate clean. And what can I do to help you during this time? Like, I think that times like this are times where you can band together and get rid of a lot of either bad blood or weird experiences with clients or people, and bring us together, just because that's what's needed. It's like in the chat room, you're talking about one of the things is community is going to be key. And so I think that a regret that people will have if they don't do during this time is actually like use this as a time to do things like that and get yourself in a good place so you can hit the ground running out of this. And so that's something that I've been trying to make an effort in going back, and anything that, even if I had a difference of opinions on something, even if it was like a political argument, even if it's just going back to people and getting in, a better position so that you can feel somewhat free out of this and not have those distractions, running out of it. So that'd be my personal advice.
Mindy.
I would say to be as scrappy as possible. I agree with so many things that John said, so I don't want to be repetitive there, but I think it's next year and people are looking back on this time. I think it's like being strategically scrappy. If you're a startup and seeing like, okay, what do I have here? What are my resources? Like a friend of mine was doing really well on Amazon with selling sneakers from all over the world. And now he's selling sugar and flour, and he's just like using his infrastructure, but he's looking at CPG, and he's reevaluating, and he's keeping his fundamental processes in place, but he's just determining different ways to be scrappy. So, and to be on brand, my final note would be just the grit. Like, give yourself time to relax and engage with friends and family and all those things. But I think this time will bring out like the grit in certain people. And I think other people will hang back. And I do think it's normal to be a little bit of both, though, I will say. Like, I don't think you have to be like always on while you're hibernating. I think it's normal to feel like very motivated and then like you want to watch every show and not move. And so I think it's like embracing personally, meditate, also highly recommend when you can do it, even though I've been getting easily distracted. So I can't say I've mastered how to get back into it yet. But I think I would just leave everyone with that word, grit. Obviously, grit daily.
And we didn't even tell her to say that word, which is even better.
Like that.
So it's natural.
You can tell who's the really creative one out of us. She's the clever one.
No, that works. And Troy, to you, what's your advice?
Yeah, I think to everyone else's point as well, like working on relationships is a great time to do that. Building with your friends, your clients, whoever it may be. Really empathize with everyone. Everyone's going through a lot right now, and basically put yourself out there to help as much as you can, which I would do with my friends and my clients as much as I can. I mean, right now everyone's talking about, like, you know, everyone's watching everything on Netflix, and you have all the time in the world. Use that towards good, help people, and it's also a great time for self-improvement in general. Turn off Netflix for a bit, maybe learn a new skill, especially if you're a business owner. Like, you can learn about certain types of marketing, learn about the organic or the paid side. You have all the time in the world on your hands right now. It's the best time that I could think of that you could actually learn new skills that could better you for 2020,
And
2021.
you know, and to that, yeah, and you know, to that, I think the term is, in a lot of forms, growth stacking and growth hacking, as our friend Justin Wu has advocated for a long time, very successfully so. And now is the time. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Mindy, Troy, John, Chad, thank you so much for being here. And a very, very special thank you to Microsoft Reactor for Startups, and to Frank for allowing this to happen and allowing Grit Daily Live to continue to bring this type of content and individuals of your expertise to everybody. So thank you all for being here. And, you know, let's stay updated. Mindy, I know we're all going to be very interested to hear how the Twitch goes.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Today.
Very exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So thank you again. And this is Grit Daily Live, powered by Microsoft Reactor for Startups. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you all soon.
Stay safe, guys.
Okay?
See ya.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.